It's become my lifestyle. People recognize me now as Tom the Heart Rock guy, and I'm starting to see myself that way. And it's not that I don't live with bipolar disorder, it's that it doesn't matter near as much as my purpose and my
Mm.
life. And there's always so much more that I can do. I don't see why I can't use my lifetime to distribute millions of heart rocks. And I'm going to do it because if there's even a small chance it could help one person, it's worth it. But if it helps someone else, that's bonus because it will help me.
I wanted to ask you if you wouldn't mind, sharing. You in your bio it says that you have bipolar disorder. How has this helped you with that? Like, what is the impact on your experience with your bipolar of this? Doing what you're doing. What how has that helped you? What has it done for you?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was 29, so it was almost 5 years ago. And it made a lot of sense because I felt like I just kind of perceived the world a little bit differently than others around me. But what was most helpful was working with a psychiatrist to help adjust my lifestyle, get sleep and diet and all of that in line. I started reading books and just learning as much as I could, but it felt like there was a missing piece there. I felt like I think anyone that lives with bipolar disorder knows, like you can kind of anticipate there's good days and there's bad days, and sometimes the days turn into weeks or months. And for me, it ended up feeling much more like a lonely, depressive side. And so, what I decided I was going to try to do was be proactive. And so, what I try to do is every single day, I know that I'm going to have good days and bad days. So, regardless, I'm going to be prepared to do something about it. And I do that by taking 10 heart rocks and I put them in my pocket and I keep them in my cup holder and in my backpack. And when I'm having a bad day or having a good day, I'll take those 10 heart rocks. And during the day, if I'm feeling up to it, I'll try to notice other people and see if there's other people that are also having a bad day or an off day. Or maybe someone that could just use a pleasant surprise, like here's a little heart rock, keep it or pass it on. It's a reminder that you're loved. And people go, really? How did you know I needed this? Like, I had no idea. I was just on a walk and you were walking the other direction. Like, or if I'm feeling a little bit more like isolated or quiet or pensive, then instead of handing someone a heart rock, maybe I see someone walking the other direction on the sidewalk. And so I'll just leave a heart rock on the ground. And maybe they find it, and maybe they don't, but somebody else will. Or I've gone to like public parks and I'll hide heart rocks on the playgrounds, and then I'll leave. And just the idea of a child going down the slide and finding a heart rock, like, and not knowing why or what it's for, I know it's going to bring them joy because it would for me. But what it ends up doing is being kind and being thoughtful. It makes it so your brain doesn't have the space to spiral inward because it's spiraling outward. Instead of thinking about like the world would be a better place without me in it, my brain is imagining these kids coming and finding heart rocks, and maybe they put it in their treasure box when they get home, or maybe they give it to their mom, or maybe they mail it to their grandma, or maybe it sits there for years and like someone finds it years from now. But my mind ends up playing these games of like, well, what's going to happen? And it can happen on much larger scales too. Like I learned that my community has a school for blind students, and so I daydreamed about like the little kids like feeling heart rocks, but then I was like, oh, but what if I made a heart rock that was lumpy and bumpy and had texture? And so I daydreamed about little blind students feeling heart rocks and then hanging on to it when they're having a really bad day and feeling alone. And then I was like, why couldn't I just do that? And so I spent 2 days making bumpy, lumpy, textured heart rocks. And I called up the school near my home and said, "Can I make a donation to you guys?" And I showed up and gave out heart rocks to all of the blind students. And they dug through the pile and felt their favorite one. And then we explained that when you're feeling alone, here's your reminder that you're not, you're loved and you're seen. And a couple weeks later, the students asked their teacher to have me come back, and they'd written me thank you notes, and they like wrote my name TOM, and the letters were like on top of each other because they're blind and they couldn't see. But they
Yeah.
drew me pictures and wrote these nice little notes. And this little girl, she was blind and deaf and dumb and in a wheelchair, and she was maybe 6 or 7 years old. And through her translator, she asked me if she could have another heart rock. And she said she'd given hers away. That that very same day when she got home, she gave her heart rock away to her mom. And so she
Oh.
asked if she could have another one because she wanted to give one to her sister. And then another little boy raised his hand, and suddenly all of these little students, about two-thirds of them, raised their hand and one at a time said that they'd given their heart rocks away. And so I was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. There's 40 kids in this school. And so sometime between Thanksgiving break and Christmas break, I'm going to come to your school and I'm going to hide 200 little rough textured heart rocks on your playground. And then you guys find him and give him to everybody. And then you guys can keep him or give him to your family or friends for Christmas. And I was like, how does that sound? And they were so excited. And so a few weeks later, I did that. I went back to the school and hid the heart rocks because they're going to have an amazing experience. And then they can keep it or pass it on. And they probably will never forget it for the rest of their life. And their families will think about it. And I did it like rather anonymously, and I wasn't there to witness it. And that might even be better because now I can just think about it and imagine those possibilities and all the good that can come from it. And it just like it's something that I can think about when I'm feeling alone and isolated and in a dark place and my brain's saying, "You don't matter." I can say, "Wait a second. Let's think about this for a second." Or let's think about the time I went to Uvalde, Texas after the school shooting and handed out 13,000 heart rocks. Or the 72 school assemblies that I've done. Let's think about like all the times I walked on the little bike path in my hometown. I've left over 2,000 heart rocks on the trail, and they're always gone whenever I walk by, so people are finding them. And I can think about going to Costco, and when they hand me free samples, I hand them heart rocks and tell them that they're lovely people. And like, it's become my lifestyle. People recognize me now as Tom the Heart Rock guy, and I'm starting to see myself that way. And it's not that I don't live with bipolar disorder, it's that it doesn't matter near as much as my purpose and my
Yeah.
life. And there's always so much more that I can do. I don't see why I can't use my lifetime to distribute millions of heart rocks. And I'm going to do it because if there's even a small chance it could help one person, it's worth it. But if it helps someone else, that's bonus because it will help me.
Yeah.